Read Royal Assassin before you watch this video. So I'm back and I have continued my Robin Hobb journey. I have completed Royal Assassin, which is the second book in the Farseer trilogy. The journey has continued and here we are. This video is going to be literally rambling about anything that pops into my head that I can think of that happened in this book and how I felt about it. There's going to be no coherent order or any coherent thoughts, probably. And this is not going to make sense to anyone who hasn't read the book. So if you have not read Royal Assassin, don't watch this video because I'm about to spoil everything. So this is for the people who have read the book. So if you haven't read the book and you're never going to read it, sure, you can watch this video. If you haven't read the book, you're going to, and you don't care about spoilers, sure, watch the video. But you have been warned, okay? I'm getting into the nitty-gritty straight away. There's going to be no non-spoiler section. Spoilers? Beginning now. So where do I even begin? Still the best series I've ever read after book 2. Book 1 was a 5, book 2 is also a 5. I've read a lot of fantasy and there's been a lot of books that I love. Already I can say this is top tier. After 2 books out of the 16, I'm there. Number 1 of all time. It is just so good, so detailed, so intricate, so character focused, so detailed in its exploration of character while still being subtle and not spelling it out for you. Robin Hobb, really, I don't know how she is not more famous. I don't know how more people have not read her books. I don't know how she hasn't gotten a HBO adaptation of her series. I haven't read Game of Thrones, so I can't compare it to that, but from what I hear, Robin Hobb and George R.R. Martin, they have a similar viewpoint on how they think fantasy should be written, and all I'm saying is this woman deserves all the fame and more. Like, this is so good. Even from someone who hasn't read beyond here, you can already tell, like, there's foreshadowing to events that are going to happen later. There's foreshadowing to decisions, characters, themes that are going to be explored later. And that's literally from someone who hasn't read beyond the 2 books. Book 2 is so good. I didn't know it could get better, and it did. Setting the scene after the way things ended in book 1, book 2 begins with Fitz in the Mountain Kingdom. And like, we all knew he was going to go back to Buckkeep. He was a little disheartened after the events of book 1, in which he was almost murdered. So fair enough, he wasn't really keen to come back to Buckkeep Castle, but you know, we knew it was going to happen. Visions of Molly getting attacked by raiders caused him to finally come back to the castle. So let's talk about Molly and their relationship in this book. And like I said, this is what I mean when this video is not going to make sense to anyone who hasn't read the book, because I'm just talking. I'm just talking about whatever enters my mind. So follow along if you can. Good luck. So Molly and Fitz. I'm just going to straight up say, I don't necessarily root for Molly and Fitz to be together. I'm not upset or mad about them wanting to be together. And even though I love them both as characters, I don't necessarily need them to be together. But I was happy to follow along with their journey in this book because in Royal Assassin, there is a big subplot about Molly and Fitz and them trying to find a way to be together when circumstances set them apart. A big struggle Fitz faces in this book is wanting to marry Molly, but Shrewd the King won't allow it because, spoiler alert, she is at this time just a servant for Patience at Buckkeep, so she's not necessarily in the same station somehow to a royal bastard. Apparently it's royal bastard up here and it's servant down here. I consider them on equal footing. Molly being a servant for Patience was actually a dynamic I really enjoyed because Patience seemed to really care about Molly's well-being, but I digress. Basically, I was just waiting for Fitz and Molly to accept that their relationship wasn't going to work. And I was right. They do, and it doesn't. However, guys, I have some tea. Are Molly and Burrick gonna be a thing? This is just a theory. These videos are also gonna include theories of what I think's to come. Anyway, this theory that I have is Molly looks after Burrick after he gets injured and visits him to give him candles that he doesn't need because she's a candle maker, fun fact. And in a falling out she has with Fitz, she tells him she's found someone else to dedicate her life to. Like, am I onto something here? Because I would be here for Molly and Burrick. Like, I feel like they both deserve something as wholesome as that after everything that's occurred. And also, Molly just straight up dipping when Fitz tells her that he's an assassin. After she has begged and pleaded for him to explain like his life to her and why he has to keep secrets from her and why they can't be together. That was hilarious. She was just straight up like, you kill people? Not cool. And I love that. I thought that was so funny. Anyway, another thing that happened in this book, Fitz got bonded to a wolf named Night Eyes. After that, he was actually a great comic relief, the wolf, because of course, Fitz's wit ability allows him to bond to animals, and he bonds to a wolf named Night Eyes, and they can communicate to each other telepathically. And I loved this for Fitz because he really just needed someone in his corner. Now that he's bonded to Night Eyes, at least he has some support, because Fitz really just needs someone to love him like at this point. Also, Regal in this book. Let's talk about Regal. I have a question. How is he continuing to get away with all the shit that he pulls? Nobody questions him about King Shrewd's health, which, you know, in and of itself is concerning. The king is dying and the Regal is sending herbs to his room. Nobody questions him about selling all the furniture at Buckkeep Castle or selling all the livestock and horses and shit. Nobody questions him about his insubordination to Verity and the coastal duchies duke guys. Like, he's an asshole and he's just getting away with it. Make it make sense, because it's Fitz the only one that could diagnose him as a baddie, because everyone else just doesn't care. Especially him ignoring messages about Forged One attacks and not sending aid when Verity has set up this great system to send ships to aid villages that are being attacked, and Regal is getting in the way of it and nobody does anything. And then he blames it on Verity when Verity is the one who set up the ships in the first place. And let's talk about Verity marrying Katrikin and then actually finally giving her the time of day. He marries Katrikin in this book, spends half the book ignoring her, finally gives her the time of day, and then fucks off to find the Elderlings. Okay, yeah, the Six Duchies is struggling, let's say, because the Raiders and the Forged Ones are attacking. And like, yeah, it seems like the only thing he can do is go find the Elderlings, but damn, like, and we have no idea if he's been successful or not. Another thing, Regal just starts telling everyone that Verity's dead and no one does anything. So yeah, Katrikin gets abandoned by her husband. Bummer for her, but I do love her. I love her as a character. She's just so pure, and like, she really believes in helping people and helping her kingdom and being a sacrifice for them. And I love her empathy for the coastal dukes when they are getting attacked by the Forged Ones. Like, she's the only one in the royal family who seems to take an interest in people getting attacked and actually aiding them. Like, Verity does, yes, but Verity, he's either busy skilling or at this point he's gone. But like, she takes an interest in the survivors of the Forged attacks, and at some point actually travels somewhere that Forged Ones are attacking to help them. And like, she's strapped up for battle. She's ready to go. I don't remember where it is, but she goes. And she's pregnant when she goes, because Verity dicked her down before he left. She's strapped up for battle. Little tucker in her stomach. What a girl boss. And I like that she's clever. I like that she's genuinely a real contender for the throne on her own. Like, she, as much as she loves Verity, she doesn't need him to rule. She could be queen on her own. So I say, let's just make her queen. And yeah, I was really happy for her when Verity and her, connected and finally fell in love after not really knowing or understanding one another at the beginning of their marriage. And it was like, thank God, because I was just waiting for those two crazy kids to get together. And then what does he do? He gets her pregnant and dips. Men. For me, Katrikin stole the show in every moment of this book. Whether it's a monologue, whether it's just her compassion or her fighting skills or her love and loyalty to Verity. She's just an amazingly complex character. We get multiple unique, dynamic, complex female characters, and Katrikin is just one of them, but arguably she slaps. She slays all on her own. She's my fave. Let's also talk about the Fool in this book. Okay, so King Shrewd is sick, which we have established. The Fool, bless his heart, really looks after him. Like, he really cares. I've always been a little confused about the dynamic between King Shrewd and the Fool, because obviously the Fool, he's from somewhere far away. I don't know where. We're not entirely sure. He comes from a place, and he showed up at court one day. And I would really love to know not just what that was like when he first arrived at Buckkeep years ago, but how Shrewd was able to gain his loyalty the way that he has, because the Fool is really riding or dying for Shrewd. The Fool does not leave his side when he is sick. And I just want to know why the Fool loves him so much. Like, what's the backstory? Somebody fill me in. Shrewd and the Fool scenes were some of my favorite scenes in Royal Assassin. Mostly because I feel like in this book, that's where the main mystery lied, was why is King Shrewd ill? What's wrong with him? Is someone poisoning him? Like, what's happening? Like Wallace, the healer, he's giving King Shrewd all these herbs, and we don't know whether they're helping him or hurting him. And the Fool seems to think that they're hurting him. And also, the Fool gets beaten up and his room gets ruined. That was tragic. Crying. And Fitz finding him, and then him coming to Fitz for help. Double crying. Also, reading this book, considering when it was written in the 90s, I was not expecting, like, I'm just gonna come out and say it, some gay rep in this book, but I feel like the Fool loves Fitz. Doesn't it just seem like there's something going on? Like, just friends, question mark? They just seem to have a really special connection. And so they really bond and get a lot closer in this book. But then, like, for example, there's one chapter where, this is where, spoilers, the king dies and Fitz has been skilling with him, which is like another kind of mental telepathy. I don't know how it's different to the wit, it just is, because I guess it's with other humans. So Shrewd dies after this encounter with Fitz, and the Fool is screaming at Fitz because he thinks Fitz has just killed the king. That was heartbreaking. I was triple crying because at this point, the Fool, which I'm like Fitz, the Fool doesn't really have a lot of people, and so him thinking he can't trust Fitz in that moment, like, that was just really sad. Okay, so the finale of this book. So Shrewd dies, and the reason he was sick was because Serene and Justin, who are two members of the, coterie? Two members who got taught to skill at the same time Fitz did, were draining King Shrewd of his skill. They were leeching onto him mentally and taking away his health. I was not expecting that. So it really was Regal who was behind Shrewd becoming ill. And Shade, which is Shrewd's bastard brother and also the person who taught Fitz how to be an assassin, he was kind of involved in the sense that he was responsible for the herbs that Shrewd was taken. So I was of the mind, and I'm sure everyone else was at this point in time, that the herbs were what was making him ill, but the herbs which Shade was responsible for giving him were actually keeping Shrewd heavily medicated, was somehow helping him survive because he is in so much pain. And so the reveal of Shade being the one keeping him drugged and not Wallace, like, that was super interesting because we realized that the drugs were helping. So yeah, and then, oh damn, that was good. So yeah, King dies, Fitz goes nuts. And I didn't understand, because there's some criticism about this series about Fitz making bad decisions. Honestly, to me, I understand that criticism, but also you can't expect characters to make good decisions all the time. But there was this one right here, where Fitz, after Shrewd has died, Fitz realizes that Serene and Justin were leeching power away from him. So he just goes after them and he just kills them. He just straight up offs them. And then he attempts to kill Regal and gets his ass thrown into jail. And that was probably, I will say it, a bad decision. Like, he could have bided his time, come up with a better revenge plan. But he wasn't in the right mind. Kid was not in his right mind. So I don't blame him. He gets thrown in jail. Bad decision jail. And then, so obviously Burek comes up with a sneaky plan for Fitz to die and bond with his wolf to fake his death and get him out of jail. And that, that makes sense. That's neat. And like I said, basically this review is just me rambling about characters. And the reason that is the case, and you should all know because you should have all read it if you're watching this, the characters are just, I think I'm actually going to become physically ill when I finish this series because I'm just going to miss them so much. Like, Robin Hobb is so good. She's a master at characters, and I'm only on book 2. And there's 16 of them. Like, you're telling me I get to read another 14 books that are this good? Am I being pranked? I just can't believe it took me so long to pick these up. And every single person who ever posted about these on Reddit or posted a review on Goodreads or posted a review in a YouTube comment, you are the reason people pick up these books. Because I never would have done it without all the people who championed this series on the internet. So honestly, doing God's work. You should be so proud. Something I also really liked about this book was the pacing. As in the first book, I really enjoy that we get to take our time in each phase and development of the story and the plot, because it just feels so comfy rather than blitzing through a really fast plot. And I think, you know, that is a personal thing. I understand that not everyone loves a slow pace, but for me, sometimes I just get stressed when the plot moves too fast. But Hobb's writing style really just gets me adjusted to what has happened and then feeling ready for what happens next rather than stressed about what's gonna happen next. So yeah, that was book 2. Super fun, loved it. Also 5 stars. It's really upsetting in this book because everyone Fitz is dead basically, apart from Burek and Shade. That is kind of sad. And the last line of this book, wolves have no kings, because obviously Fitz ends up being in Night Eyes' body, sharing his body with him. That was a great last line. And that was really telling about the sort of mentality Fitz is going to have at the beginning of Assassin's Quest, which is the next book. I think at this point, Fitz has been so constrained by his loyalty to the Farseers and his sort of day-to-day tasks that he has to do. He's never really been his own person, and I feel like we're going to see him be his own person and really battle with that in the next book. So that'll be really fun. I'm wondering if they're gonna tell anyone else that he's alive. Like, I feel like they should tell Molly probably, and they should probably tell Patience, because poor Patience had to bury him thinking he was really dead, and that was sad. I would also love a book about chivalry as a teen or a youth and how he met Patience, and that would be good. And but with Burek, obviously. Oh my god, yeah. So Burek and Patience had a thing. That was interesting. We're not so loyal to chivalry, are we? No. Well, okay, he met her first. Burek met Patience first, so actually, he's just doing the best he could. That was a really fun reveal, and yeah, I just feel like him and Molly are gonna become a thing. And my predictions for book 3, I could not tell you, because Fitz mentions in the end of this book that nobody ever knows him as Fitz Chivalry Farseer again, because everyone thinks he's dead, and he's made the point to say that it's going to stay that way, because otherwise I would have thought, okay, maybe book 3 is going to be about him coming back and like taking back the castle and maybe becoming king, but it doesn't seem like it's going to take that route. So the only thing I can think of him doing in book 3 is going after Verity, because Verity, like I said, he's missing because he's gone to find the Elderlings. Also, the Fool and Kutrikan escape the kingdom at the end of this book, because Kutrikan finally someone else catches on that Regal is not so good, and so she escapes with the Fool to the Mountain Kingdom. So yeah, I feel like Fitz is gonna go that way in the next book. I feel like I'm gonna have a little bit more to say about this trilogy as a whole once I've read book 3. So hopefully the next video will be longer and make more sense. I have book 3 to look forward to, and I think at this point I'm probably just gonna jump straight onto Live Ship Traders after this. And it'll be interesting actually to see, because I've heard that's in 3rd person, to see how Robin Hobb writes a 3rd person story, because Fitz is obviously first. And then I think we jump into Fitz after this. That's really exciting. So yeah, have a good one, guys. Read the Farseer trilogy. Should be interesting to see how this trilogy ends, because as of this point, I've got no clue. Are we gonna find the Elderlings? Are we not? Is Fitz gonna kill Regal? Isn't he? Don't know. So let's find out. Goodbye.